9 days had passed since the collapse. 9 days of silence. 9 days of machines beeping. 9 days of cubs keeping watch outside her door. 9 days of Kiro sitting beside her bed, hoping and praying in a language that had no gods. On the morning of the 10th day, something changed. Kiro was half asleep, his head resting on the edge of Yuna's bed. The sun from the station's artificial windows cast soft light across the room. The machines hummed their steady rhythm. Everything was quiet. Everything was still. Then Yuna's fingers moved. It was not much. Just a small twitch. A tiny curl of her hand. But Kiro felt it against his scales. His eyes snapped open. "Yuna?" He whispered. Her fingers moved again. Then her hand. Her arm shifted slightly on the bed. A soft sound came from her throat. Not quite a word, but something close. Kiro jumped up, his heart racing. "Yuna, you are moving. You are waking up." He ran to the door and pushed it open. The cubs in the corridor looked up at him with wide eyes. "She is waking up," Kiro shouted. She moved. "Get the doctors. Tell everyone." The news spread like lightning. Cubs scrambled to their feet. Some ran to find medical staff. Others sent messages to their parents. Within minutes, the corridor was filled with movement and noise for the first time in over a week. Somi was the first doctor to reach the room. She rushed inside, her scanner already in her hand. She checked Yuna's vitals, her brain activity, her responses. "Her neural patterns are changing," Somi said, her voice shaking with hope. "She's coming out of it. She's actually coming out of it." More medical staff arrived. They surrounded the bed, monitoring every change. But they made sure to leave space for Kiro. No one tried to move him away. No one would dare. Minutes felt like hours. The cubs crowded at the door, trying to see inside. Adults began to arrive too. Graf pushed his way to the front, his old face tight with tension. And then, slowly, Yuna opened her eyes. The light was too bright at first. She blinked, trying to focus. Shapes moved around her. Sounds reached her ears, muffled and strange. She did not know where she was. She did not know what had happened. Then she saw the golden eyes, dozens of them, maybe more, staring at her through the doorway, surrounding her bed, watching her with an intensity that should have been frightening, but somehow was not. "Yuna?" A small voice reached her. She turned her head, the movement sending pain through her neck. Kiro stood beside her bed. His scales were dull. His eyes were red from crying. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Kiro," she whispered. Her voice was rough and broken. "You are safe. You saved me." Tears began to fall from his golden eyes. "You saved me, and I thought you were going to leave. I thought you were going to die." Yuna tried to lift her hand. It was hard. Her body felt like it was made of stone. But she managed to move her fingers to where Kiro could reach them. The cub grabbed her hand with both of his small claws. He held on like he would never let go. "I told you," Yuna whispered. "I was not going anywhere." A sound came from the doorway. Yuna turned her head slightly and saw them properly for the first time. The cubs, so many cubs. They filled the corridor as far as she could see. They stood and sat and watched her with eyes full of tears and hope and something else. Something that looked like love. "They kept vigil for you," Somi said softly. "For 10 days. They would not leave. They would not sleep properly. They said they had to watch over you." Yuna stared at the cubs. She did not know what to say. She had never expected anything like this. She had just done what felt right. She had protected a child. Any decent person would have done the same. But to the Varax, it was more than that. It was everything. Graf stepped forward. He moved past the cubs and into the room. He stood at the foot of her bed, looking down at her with those ancient golden eyes. "Human," he said. His voice was formal, but there was warmth beneath it. "You gave your blood for our blood. You gave your body for our young. Among the Varax, there is only one thing to say to such a person." He lowered his head. All the cubs lowered their heads at the same time. "You are Pack," Grath said. "Now and forever. Where you go, we follow. Where you stand, we stand beside you. Your enemies are our enemies. Your pain is our pain. This is our promise. This is our bond." Yuna felt tears running down her face. She had spent 3 years on the station, feeling like an outsider. A human among aliens. A small person in a big universe. She had done her job and kept her distance and never asked for more. And now she had a family. A real family. A pack. "I do not know what to say," she whispered. Grath made that rumbling sound again. Laughter. "Say you will get better," he said. "Say you will let us care for you as you cared for us. That is all we ask." Yuna looked at Kiro. The little cub was still holding her hand, his eyes bright with tears and joy. "I will get better," she said. "I promise." The recovery was long. Yuna's spine had been badly damaged. She needed surgery. She needed therapy. She needed months of hard work to learn to walk again. But she was never alone. The cubs took turns visiting her every day. They brought her food from the Varax kitchens. They told her stories. They played quiet games in her room while she rested. When she started her physical therapy, they cheered her on. When she fell, they helped her up. When she cried from frustration and pain, they held her claws and told her she was strong. Kiro never left for long. He became her shadow, her constant companion. He slept in a small nest beside her bed. He ate his meals with her. He helped her practice walking, his small body supporting her weight when she stumbled. The other humans on the station watched this happen. They saw the fearsome predator species treat a human woman like one of their own. They saw cubs who could barely walk bring flowers to her room. They saw warriors bow their heads when they spoke her name. And slowly, things began to change. Humans started talking to Varax in corridors. They stopped walking on the other side of hallways. They began to see what Yuna had always seen. Not monsters. Not enemies. Just people. Different, yes. Strange, maybe. But people all the same. 6 months after the collapse, Yuna walked on her own for the first time. The corridor outside the medical wing was filled with Varax. Cubs she had cared for. Adults she had treated. Elders she had come to know. They all came to watch her take those first steps. Yuna stood at one end of the corridor. Kiro stood at the other, his arms open wide. "You can do it," he called. "Come to me. Walk to me." Yuna took a breath. Her legs were shaky. Her back hurt. But she looked at Kiro. She looked at all the golden eyes watching her. She felt their hope, their love, their belief in her. She took a step. Then another. Then another. She did not fall. She did not stumble. She walked the entire length of the corridor and fell into Kiro's arms. The Varax roared their approval. The sound shook the walls. It was the sound of joy, of triumph, of family celebrating together. Yuna held Kiro close and laughed through her tears. She had come to Haven Point as a stranger. She had expected to work, to earn money, to go home eventually. She had not expected to find love. She had not expected to find a place where she belonged, but she had found it anyway. She was packed now. She was family. And she would never be alone again. By the 4th day, the station commander had decided he needed to act. Duhan stood at the entrance to the ICU corridor, staring at the scene before him. 37 Varax cubs sat along the walls. Some leaned against each other, sleeping in shifts. Others kept watch with wide golden eyes. They had not left since arriving. They had not caused trouble. They had not made demands, but their presence was creating problems. The medical staff had to walk carefully around them to move equipment. The corridor was crowded. Other patients in the ICU were nervous having so many predators nearby, even young ones. Some human families had complained. Do-hoon had received calls from the council. Questions were being asked. Why was a horde of alien children camping outside a hospital room? What message did this send? Was it safe? He took a deep breath and walked into the corridor. The cubs watched him come. Their eyes followed his every step. None of them moved. None of them spoke. But somehow, the silence felt louder than any noise. Grath was still there, standing guard as he had for 4 days. He looked tired, but showed no sign of leaving. "Elder Grath," Dawn said formally. "We need to talk." Grath inclined his head slightly. "Speak, Commander. This situation cannot continue. The cubs need to return to proper care facilities. They need food. They need sleep and proper beds. They need supervision from their parents. Their parents know where they are," Grath replied calmly. "Many of them sent their cubs here themselves." Doan blinked. "The parents sent them?" "Yes, to honor the one who saved Kiro. Among our people, this is the highest duty a young one can perform. But they are children. This is a medical facility, not a camping ground." Grath turned to face him fully. Despite his age, the old Varax was still larger than any human. His golden eyes held something hard and unyielding. "Commander," he said, "do you know what Yuna did for us? She saved a cub during the collapse. I read the report. You read words on a screen. Let me tell you what those words mean." Grath's voice dropped lower. When the ceiling fell, Yuna had 1 second to choose. She could have run. She could have saved herself. A human body is weak, fragile. She knew what that debris would do to her. Doan said nothing. But she did not run. She saw Kiro standing there, too afraid to move. And she chose. She chose to be his shield. She wrapped her body around his and took the blow meant for him. She gave her spine. She gave her blood. She gave everything she had so that a Varax cub could live. Grath stepped closer. Do-hoon fought the urge to step back. "Among my people, there is no greater honor than this. To sacrifice yourself for a child. To give your life so that a young one may survive. Warriors have killed and died for lesser deeds. And you ask us to leave?" "I am asking for order," Do-hoon said, his voice weaker than he wanted it to be. "For safety. For proper procedure. Then change your procedures." Grath did not raise his voice, but there was steel in his words. "She bled for our kin. We stand for hers. This is our way. It has been our way for 1,000 generations. No human order will change it." Do-hoon looked at the cubs again. They had not moved during the conversation. They sat like small statues, patient and still. "If I try to remove them by force," he began. "You will not," Grath interrupted. "Is that a threat?" "It is a fact. You do not have enough guards on this station to move these cubs if they do not wish to move. And if you try, their parents will come. Every adult Varax on Haven Point will come. Not to fight. We do not want conflict. But we will stand with our young. We will stand for Yuna." The corridor fell silent. Do-hoon felt the weight of 37 pairs of golden eyes on him. He felt the weight of the choice before him. He was a practical man. He had commanded Haven Point for 6 years. He knew when to push and when to step back. And right now, every instinct told him that pushing would lead somewhere he did not want to go. "What do you need?" he asked finally. Something shifted in Grath's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "We need food brought here for the cubs. We need blankets. We need to not be disturbed. That is all. For how long? Until she wakes. Or until she does not. However long that takes. Dawn nodded slowly. I will make arrangements. He turned to leave, then stopped. He looked at Grath one more time. You really believe she's worth all this? Grath did not hesitate. She treated our sick when others would not touch them. She cared for our cubs when others feared them. She gave her life to save one of our young. Commander, among the Varaks, she is worth more than you will ever understand. Dohan left without another word. That afternoon, food and blankets arrived for the cubs. The medical staff stopped complaining. The corridor was officially designated as a temporary vigil site. Signs were posted warning visitors not to disturb those keeping watch. The cubs accepted these changes quietly. They ate their food without waste. They shared their blankets without argument. They continued their vigil as they had before. 3 more days passed. Yuna's condition did not improve, but it did not get worse either. She hung in the balance, her body fighting a battle that no one could see. The doctors ran tests. They tried new treatments. They did everything they could. Inside her room, Kiro never left. He had grown thinner. His scales had lost some of their shine. But he refused to go. He talked to Yuna every day. He told her about the cubs outside. He told her how many had come. He told her that she was not alone. There are so many of us now, he whispered one night. We are all waiting for you. We will not leave until you come back. You have to come back, Yuna. You have to. Sometimes Minji would sit with him. The human medic who had once questioned why Yuna spent time with the Varaks now understood. She watched Kiro hold his vigil, and she saw what Yuna had seen. Not monsters. Not predators. Just children who loved and lost and hoped, just like any other children in the universe. You care about her very much, Minji said one evening. Kiro looked at her. She is my safe person. She made the darkness go away. She made me feel like everything would be okay. She did that for a lot of people, Minji said softly. I know. That is why we are all here. Because she made us all feel safe. And now she needs to feel safe too. She needs to know we are here. She needs to know she's not alone. Minji felt tears sting her eyes. She reached out and gently touched Kiro's small shoulder. She knows, she said. I am sure she knows. Outside, the vigil continued. 7 days. Then it would be 8. Then 9. The cubs did not count anymore. They just waited. They just watched. They just believed that somewhere in the darkness, Yuna was fighting her way back to them, and deep inside her damaged body, in a place where machines could not reach and doctors could not see, something began to stir. A spark, a flame, a will to live that refused to go out. Yuna was not ready to leave. Not yet. Not while her pack was waiting for her. The news spread through Haven Point like fire through dry grass. A human medic had saved a Varak's cub. She had used her own body as a shield. She had taken the blow meant for the child. Now she was dying in the ICU. Among the humans, there was shock and sadness. Yuna was well liked. She was kind. She worked hard. No one wanted to believe that she might not survive. But among the Varaks, something different was happening. Something that the humans did not expect. Thought it started with Kiro. The little cub had been taken to a temporary shelter with the other younglings after the collapse. He was checked by healers and declared unharmed. Not a single scratch on his body. Yuna had protected him completely, but Kiro would not stay in the shelter. He would not eat. He would not sleep. He kept asking the same question over and over. Where is Yuna? I want to see Yuna. The adult Varaks tried to calm him. They told him that Yuna was being cared for by doctors. They told him he needed to rest. But Kiro would not listen. Finally, Grath came to see him. The old Varax knelt down in front of the small cub. His golden eyes were serious but not unkind. "You want to see the human who saved you," Grath said. It was not a question. Kiro nodded. Tears still wet his scales. "She told me to stay with her. She said she would not leave. But they took her away." Grath was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up. "Come," he said. "I will take you to her." Grath led Kiro through the station to the medical wing. The corridors were busy with repair crews and emergency workers, but they all moved aside when they saw the old Varax warrior coming. No one questioned where he was going. They reached the ICU wing. The doors were closed. A human security guard stood outside. "I am sorry," the guard said. "This area is restricted. Only medical staff and family are allowed." Grath looked at him. The guard was young, barely older than a boy. His hands were shaking slightly. "This cub is the reason she is in there," Grath said, his voice low. "She gave her body to save his life. By our laws, that makes him her family." The guard opened his mouth to argue. Then he saw Kiro's face. The tears, the pain, the desperate need to see the woman who had protected him. The guard stepped aside. "Just be quiet," he said softly. "She needs rest." Grath nodded once. He pushed open the door, and they entered the ICU. Yuna lay in a bed in the center of the room. Machines surrounded her, beeping and humming. Tubes connected her to bags of fluid and medicine. Her eyes were closed. Her face was pale. She looked so small, so fragile. Kiro made a sound of pain when he saw her. He pulled away from Grath and ran to the side of her bed. He stood on his back legs to see her better, his small claws gripping the edge of the mattress. "Yuna," he whispered. "Yuna, I am here. Please wake up." But Yuna did not wake up. She did not move. She just lay there, breathing slowly with the help of machines. Kiro turned to Grath. "Why will she not wake up?" "Her body is very hurt," Grath explained gently. "She is fighting to survive. She needs time to heal. Will she die?" Kiro's voice broke on the last word. Grath did not lie to him. "She might. The humans are doing everything they can. But her injuries are very serious." Kiro was silent for a long time. He stared at Yuna's face. Then he did something that surprised even Grath. He sat down on the floor beside her bed. "Then I will wait," Kiro said. "I will wait until she wakes up." Grath watched the small cub. He saw the determination in those young golden eyes. He saw something that reminded him of warriors he had known long ago. "I will be outside," Grath said. "Call if you need anything." He left the room and took position in the hallway. He stood with his back against the wall, his arms crossed, watching everyone who passed. The news reached the other cubs within hours. The Varax young ones had a network of communication that the adults did not fully understand. They whispered to each other. They passed messages. They shared what they knew. Yuna was hurt. Yuna had saved Kiro. Kiro was keeping watch over her. He should not be alone. The first cub arrived that evening. Her name was Tora, the same cub who often argued with Kiro. She was bigger than him, with darker scales. She walked down the corridor with her head held high, as if she belonged there. The human guard tried to stop her. "You cannot go in there," he said. "Only family." Tora looked at him with cold eyes. For a moment, she looked exactly like an adult Varax warrior. "She fed me when I was sick," Tora said. "She sang songs to make me sleep. She is my family." The guard looked at Grath. The old warrior said nothing. He just stared back. The guard let Tora pass. More cubs came that night. 2 more, then 3, then 5. They came alone or in pairs. They came quietly, without making a sound. Each one took a position near Yuna's room. Some sat against the walls. Others stood like small statues dot by morning. There were 12 cubs gathered in the hallway outside the ICU. The human staff did not know what to do. They had never seen anything like this. The Rax cubs, the most protected and precious members of their species, were sitting in a hospital corridor like guards. One of the doctors, a woman named Somi, approached Grath. "What is happening?" she asked. "Why are all these children here?" Grath looked at the cubs. His old face showed something that might have been pride. "They are keeping vigil," he said. "Vigil? It is our way. When a warrior falls in battle protecting others, those who were protected must watch over them. They must guard them until they wake or until they pass into the next world." Somi looked at the cubs. Some of them were barely old enough to walk properly. Their scales were soft. Their claws were not yet sharp. But they sat perfectly still, their golden eyes fixed on Yuna's door. "They're just children," Somi said softly. "They are Varax," Grath replied. "We learn our duties young." Inside the room, Kiro had not moved. He sat beside Yuna's bed through the night. He watched her breathe. He watched the machines count her heartbeats. He talked to her sometimes, telling her stories about the nursery, telling her about the games they would play when she got better. "You have to wake up," he told her. "You promised you would not leave. You promised." Yuna did not answer. But sometimes, just sometimes, Kiro thought he saw her fingers twitch. Just a tiny movement. Just a small sign that somewhere inside her broken body, she was still fighting. Outside, more cubs arrived. Word had spread to other parts of the station. Word had spread to other parts of the station, to other Varax families, to other ships docked at Haven Point Dock by the second day. There were 23 cubs in the hallway. They did not play. They did not fight. They did not make noise. They just sat and watched and waited. The humans began to talk. They whispered in corridors and cafeterias. They sent messages to friends on other stations. "Did you hear what happened? The Varax cubs are guarding a human. They will not leave. They say she saved one of them. They say she is one of them now, and still the cubs came. And still they waited. And still Yuna lay silent in her bed, hanging between life and death, surrounded by the vigil of those she had loved without asking for anything in return." The day started like any other day on Haven Point. Yuna woke up in her small room, showered, and put on her medical uniform. She ate a simple breakfast of rice and vegetables in the station cafeteria. Then she walked to the medical wing to begin her shift. The station was busy that morning. A cargo ship had arrived with supplies, and workers moved through the corridors carrying boxes and equipment. Yuna passed them with a nod and continued on her way. Her morning was quiet. She treated a human engineer who had burned his hand on a hot pipe. She gave medicine to a Varax warrior who had a stomach problem. She filled out reports and checked her equipment. Around midday, she decided to visit the nursery. It had been 3 days since her last visit, and she knew Kiro would be waiting for her. The little cub always counted the days between her visits. Yuna took the elevator to the nursery sector. The doors opened, and she stepped out into the familiar hallway. The walls here were painted in soft colors, different from the gray metal of the rest of the station. The Varax had decorated this place to make it comfortable for their young ones. The guards at the nursery door recognized her and let her pass without question. Inside, the cubs were playing. Some of them were wrestling with each other, their small bodies rolling across the padded floor. Others were eating from bowls of specially prepared food. A few were sleeping in nests made of soft fabric. Kiro saw her immediately. He made a high-pitched sound of happiness and ran toward her, his small claws clicking on the floor. "Yuna! Yuna!" he called. He had learned to say her name, though it came out slightly different in his deep voice. Yuna knelt down and let him hug her. His scales were warm against her skin. She patted his head gently. "Hello, little one," she said. "Have you been good?" "Yes." "Very good," Kiro said. "I ate all my food. I did not fight with anyone. Well, maybe I fought a little bit with Tora, but she started it." Yuna laughed. Tora was another cub, slightly older than Kiro. The two of them were always getting into small arguments. "Fighting is not good," Yuna said gently. "Even if someone else starts it." Kiro's ears drooped a little. "I know. I will try harder." Yuna spent the next hour playing with the cubs. She told them a story about a brave knight from human history. She helped them build a tower out of blocks. She answered their endless questions about human food and human homes and human families. She was so focused on the cubs that she did not notice the first warning sign. A slight vibration ran through the floor. It was so small that most people would not have felt it. But Yuna paused. Something felt wrong. She looked around. The cubs continued playing, unaware of anything unusual. The Varax caretakers were talking quietly in a corner. Nothing seemed out of place. Yuna shook her head. She was being silly. The station always had small vibrations from its engines and life support systems. It was nothing to worry about. She went back to playing with the cubs. 5 minutes later, the second warning came. This time, it was a sound. A deep groan, like metal being stretched too far. It came from somewhere above them, from the ceiling. Yuna looked up. The ceiling looked normal. White panels, soft lighting. Nothing wrong, but the sound came again. Louder this time. The cubs stopped playing. Their golden eyes looked upward. Some of them whimpered. "What is that noise?" Kiro asked, pressing closer to Yuna. Before she could answer, the alarm started. Red lights flashed along the walls. A loud siren filled the air. A mechanical voice spoke from the speakers. Warning. Structural failure detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Sector 7. That was where they were. The nursery was in Sector 7. Everything happened very fast after that. The Varax caretakers moved immediately. They began gathering the cubs, picking them up and carrying them toward the exits. Their movements were quick but controlled. They had trained for emergencies like this. Yuna helped. She picked up 2 small cubs and ran toward the door. The floor was shaking now, a constant trembling that made it hard to walk. More groaning sounds came from above, from the walls, from everywhere. "Move, move," shouted one of the caretakers. "Get the young ones out." Yuna made it to the door. She handed the 2 cubs to a caretaker who was already carrying 3 others. Then she turned back to see if anyone was left behind. That was when she saw Kiro. The little cub was not with the others. He was standing in the middle of the room, frozen. His eyes were wide with fear. His body was shaking. "Kiro." Yuna shouted, "Come here! We have to go!" But Kiro did not move. He was too scared. His legs would not work. Yuna ran back into the room. The ceiling above her made a terrible cracking sound. She did not stop. She did not slow down. She reached Kiro and grabbed him. "I have you," she said. "Hold on to me." She turned to run back to the door. She was fast. She was almost there, but she was not fast enough. The ceiling gave way. A massive support beam came crashing down. Tons of metal and broken material fell toward them like a wave of destruction. Yuna had less than a second to react. She did not think. She just moved. She threw her body over Kiro's small form. She wrapped herself around him, using her back to shield him from what was coming. The beam hit her. The pain was beyond anything she had ever felt. It was like fire and ice and lightning all at once. She heard something crack inside her body. She heard Kiro screaming her name. She heard more things falling around them. Then there was darkness. When Yuna opened her eyes, she was lying on the ground. Dust filled the air. Emergency lights flickered red and white. She could not feel her legs. She could not feel much of anything below her chest, but she could feel Kiro. He was still under her, still alive, still unhurt. Yuna? His small voice was full of fear. Yuna, please wake up. I am awake, she whispered. Her voice sounded strange, weak, far away. You are hurt, Kiro said. There is blood. So much blood. Do not look at it, Yuna said. Just stay still. Help will come. She could hear voices in the distance, shouting, running footsteps. Someone was coming. Yuna tried to stay awake. She tried to keep her eyes open. But the darkness kept pulling at her, trying to drag her down. Stay with me, Kiro begged. Please stay with me. I am here, Yuna whispered. I am not going anywhere. But even as she said it, she felt herself slipping away. The last thing she saw was Kiro's golden eyes, filled with tears. The last thing she heard was his voice calling her name. Then there was nothing but silence and darkness. The rescue teams found them 20 minutes later. They pulled away the debris and discovered Yuna's broken body covering Kiro's unharmed one. The cub refused to leave her side. He had to be gently carried away while he cried and reached for her. Yuna was still breathing. Barely. Her spine was shattered. Her internal organs were damaged. The doctor said it was a miracle she was alive at all. They rushed her to the ICU. They began the long, desperate fight to save her life. And in the halls, outside, the first of the Varax cubs had already begun to gather. The space station floated in the darkness between two galaxies. It was called Haven Point, and it was home to many different species. Humans lived there. So did the Varax. Yuna had worked on Haven Point for 3 years. She was a medic, trained to heal wounds and treat sickness. Her hands were small but steady. Her voice was soft but clear. The other humans on the station liked her because she was calm during emergencies. She never panicked. She never raised her voice. She just worked. The Varax were different from humans in almost every way. They stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in dark scales that shimmered like oil in the station lights. Their eyes were golden and sharp, like the eyes of wolves. Their claws could cut through metal. Their teeth were long and curved. When they spoke, their voices rumbled like distant thunder. Most humans on the station were afraid of the Varax. They walked on the other side of hallways when a Varax passed. They avoided the sectors where the Varax lived. They whispered stories about how the Varax had once been warriors who conquered entire planets. Yuna was not afraid. She had learned early in her time on Haven Point that fear was useless. The Varax were here. They were part of the station. They needed medical care just like anyone else. So when a Varax came to the medical wing with an injury, Yuna treated them. She did not flinch when they growled. She did not step back when they showed their teeth. She just did her job. The Varax noticed this. One day, a Varax elder named Grath came to the medical wing. He was old. His scales faded to gray in some places. A deep cut ran across his arm. He had gotten it during a training exercise with the younger warriors. Yuna cleaned the wound and applied the healing gel. She worked in silence, her movements quick and sure. You do not fear us, Grath said. His voice was low and rough. Yuna looked up at him. His golden eyes studied her face. Should I? She asked. Grath was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound deep in his throat. It took Yuna a moment to realize it was laughter. No, he said. You should not. After that day, word spread among the Varax. There was a human medic who did not run. There was a human medic who looked them in the eye. Her name was Yuna. The Varax began to come to her more often. Not just for injuries, but for advice. They asked her about human medicine. They asked her about human customs. Sometimes they just sat in her office and talked. Yuna learned things about them too. She learned that the Varax valued strength, but not just physical strength. They valued courage. They valued loyalty. They valued those who kept their word. Most importantly, she learned about their cubs. The Varax cubs were kept in a special wing of the station called the nursery. It was guarded at all times. The cubs were precious to the Varax. They were the future of their species. Losing even one cub was considered a tragedy beyond words. The cubs were different from adult Varax. They were smaller, of course, but they were also softer. Their scales had not fully hardened yet. Their claws were not yet sharp, and their eyes were wide and curious, not cold and watchful like their parents. Yuna first visited the nursery when a cub named Kiro got sick. He was very young, barely 2 cycles old. His scales had turned pale, and he would not eat. The Varax healers had tried everything they knew, but nothing worked. Grath came to Yuna. "Will you look at him?" he asked. "Our healers cannot find the problem." Yuna went to the nursery. The guards watched her as she entered, their eyes tracking her every move. She ignored them and walked to where Kiro lay on a soft bed of woven material. The cub looked up at her with tired, golden eyes. Yuna knelt beside him. She ran her scanner over his small body. She checked his vitals. She looked at the data on her screen. "He has an infection," she said. "It is in his blood. Your medicines cannot reach it, but ours can." She prepared the injection herself. The Varax watched her with intense eyes as she gently pressed the needle into Kiro's arm. The cub whimpered but did not cry. Yuna stroked the scales on his head softly. "You are brave," she told him. "You will feel better soon." Within 2 days, Kiro was eating again. Within a week, his scales had returned to their normal dark color. He ran and played with the other cubs as if he had never been sick. The Varax did not forget this. Graf came to Yuna's office the day Kiro was declared fully healthy. "You saved one of our young," he said. "This debt is not small." "There is no debt," Yuna replied. "It is my job." Graf shook his head slowly. "Among our people, there's always a debt when a life is saved, especially the life of a cub. You may not believe in our ways, but we do." The Varax remember. After that, Yuna became a regular visitor to the nursery. At first, she came only when a cub was sick or hurt. But soon she found herself coming even when there was no medical reason. The cubs liked her. They followed her around the nursery, tugging at her coat with their small claws. They asked her questions about humans. They wanted to know why her skin was so soft. They wanted to know why she did not have scales. They wanted to know if she could run fast or jump high. Yuna answered all their questions with patience. She showed them pictures of Earth. She told them stories about human children. She taught them simple human games. The adult Varax watched all of this. They said nothing, but their golden eyes held something that might have been approval. Kiro became especially attached to Yuna. He waited for her visits. When she entered the nursery, he would run to her and wrap his small arms around her leg. He called her a word in the Varax language that Yuna did not understand at first. "What does that mean?" she asked Grath one day. "It means something like safe person," Grath explained. "One who protects. One who can be trusted with young ones." It is a word we do not use lightly. Yuna felt something warm spread through her chest. She had not come to Haven Point to make friends with aliens. She had come to do her job and earn money to send back to her family on Earth. But somehow, without meaning to, she had become part of something larger that the other humans on the station did not understand. "Why do you spend so much time with them?" asked Minji, another medic who worked with Yuna. "They are predators. They eat meat. They have killed people in wars. So have humans, Yuna said simply. Minji had no answer for that. The station commander, a man named Dohan, also questioned her. The Varaks are allies, but we must maintain proper distance, he said. It is protocol. I am a medic, Yuna replied. My protocol is to help those who need help. Dohan frowned but said nothing more. He knew that Yuna's relationship with the Varaks had improved cooperation between the two species on the station. There had been fewer conflicts, fewer misunderstandings. The Varaks seemed calmer, more willing to work with humans on joint projects. And so life on Haven Point continued. Yuna worked her shifts in the medical wing. She visited the nursery when she could. She learned more about the Varaks, and they learned about her. She did not know that something terrible was coming. She did not know that the station's old structure was weakening in places no one had checked. She did not know that in the nursery sector, a support beam was slowly cracking, day by day. Under pressure, it was never meant to hold. She did not know that soon she would have to make a choice that would change everything. But for now, she simply lived. She healed the sick. She cared for the cubs. And somewhere in the depths of space, the station creaked and groaned, waiting for the moment when everything would fall apart.